I don't know if you've heard the news, but the new Tesla killer has arrived. It's called Rivian. Now, I'm just joking. It's not going to be killing Tesla. I just want to troll some Tesla investors and trigger them a little bit. But Rivian is an EV company. They're going to be IPOing next week. It's going to be one of these exciting IPOs where the price is very high. In fact, if we look at their set IPO valuation, it's at a minimum of 60 billion. It might even be 80 billion, 85 billion plus for a company that really generates no revenue right now. These are some incredible numbers. And why is this the case? Why is Rivian IPOing at 60 billion? Well, a couple things. First of all is, like the image showed, the trucks look nice. They're nice looking vehicles. Even if you're a Tesla investor or whatever, you have to appreciate a nice design. These are good looking trucks. But I think the bigger reason why is because they have some big name backers, one of them being a company you may have heard of before called Amazon. Amazon owns 20% of Rivian. I'm pretty sure that Ford is also a big backer, but like, who cares, if Ford is a backer. The bigger one here is Amazon by far. That's what makes people more interested in Rivian as a company. So Rivian is this EV company that makes all electric vehicles. They make trucks and they have an SUV, and they're making specialized vans for Amazon that they already have an order of 100,000. And that's going to be delivered way down the road though. That's like maybe 6 or 7 years out at the minimum. And then they're trying to create 10,000 trucks just, I think, next year. They want to have like 10,000 vehicles on the road. They do have things going. They have prototypes out. They have people that have tested them. So I thought it would be fun to look at this company together and try to get a sense of whether or not this is a good one to jump in at IPO, or maybe wait a bit, or if it's a company that we should even consider investing in at all. So we're going to be looking over Rivian, the vehicles, the future plan, and the valuation in this episode. Now, of course, before we jump into Rivian specifically, I have to do a really quick update on my portfolio. This is called the Story Fund, and we do things real here. This is real money. We don't just talk about stocks. I don't just share my opinion. I put my money where my mouth is. When I like companies, I actually buy a piece of them. And this portfolio is a lot of companies that I like that I think will give me good returns. I show the performance of this portfolio benchmarked against the S&P 500 every single week, and this is what it looks like. Mine is in blue, the S&P 500 is in red. As of right now, my portfolio has returned 25.6%, while the S&P 500 has returned 22.7%. So we're beating it by just a little, not a convincing lead, but you know what? This year has been very good for the S&P 500, so outperforming it, I'll take it. I think it's good so far, and we'll see what this does down the road. And as always, if you want to follow along in my journey of compounding this money and seeing the gains grow week by week and month by month, I share this transparently for free. You can follow along for free by hitting the subscribe button. All right, now let's go ahead and look at Rivian here for a minute. The first thing I want to do before looking at the valuation or the company's revenue or anything like that, I first want to look at the actual product. What is it that they do? What are they selling? What is their goal? Let's go ahead and look at that. Luckily, some YouTubers have had a chance to get their hands on to some Rivian trucks. Here's one video by Marques Brownlee where he does a review of the Rivian truck. This is the R1T is the name of it.
This is Rivian's first consumer vehicle. It's a pickup truck. It's called the R1T. So I've got it here in this sort of Pacific blue color, and the basic specs are this.
Now, my opinion, just looking at this, is that it's a nice looking truck. I do think that this is a very nice, attractive vehicle. I think a lot of people would want to buy this. And the price range is pretty insane though. He'll later reveal that it's like $70,000, $80,000, which is very expensive. So that right there will probably price out the majority of people looking in the truck market. But for people looking for high-end electric vehicle trucks, we know that they're willing to spend a lot, and this one does look good. Even if you're a Tesla investor, you have to admit this is a decent looking vehicle. It looks completely different though from the Cybertruck. So I don't think it will be appealing to really the same people.
Quad motors, one on each 21-inch all-terrain wheel, 314 miles of range, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds flat, which is hilariously quick for a pickup truck. And then this is the launch edition with the adventure package, which includes, a lot of the most premium interior finishes. It has the off-road upgrade and pretty much all the options. So it starts at just over $70,000, and it can quickly jump up into mid-80s or 90 plus from there. So definitely premium, but it's packing a lot of stuff that makes it feel worth the price. And I gotta say, this truck turns more heads than anything else I have ever driven. I think a lot of it is the face, but like more than any other electric car, more than any McLaren, more than any Tesla, all day people are coming up to it, asking about it, pointing at it. It definitely makes a statement right now. And someone on Twitter told me it looks kind of like this truck is 50 years old and from the future at the same time. I feel like that actually hits the nail on the head.
Yeah, I agree with most of what he says there. It reminds me a little bit of like the Range Rover kind of boxy feel. Not exactly, but it has some similarities. Overall, I like the look of the vehicle. Right off the bat, I think this thing will sell, even though it's premium priced. I still think there's a market for it. He gets into the interior, which I also think looks very nice.
Okay, number 2, how's the interior? So it's really good and also doesn't really look like anything else, but if I had to describe it, it's kind of like if someone combined the layout from a Tesla with the wood and leather and metal type finishes from a Volvo or something, and then stuffed a bunch of extra features in it.
To me, the layout does seem similar to a Tesla. You got the huge displays in there if we back up a little bit. Yeah, look at that. It's a nice looking display, right? The HD ultra wide displays in it, and then it's very simplified. I just think it's a nice looking truck all around. So right off the bat, the product I think is appealing. This is an attractive product. I think that there will be a market for it. Now there's another YouTuber that was also able to test drive the Rivian, and he did something different. He didn't just take it on flat ground. He took this thing outdoors and he drove over a very treacherous trail. Like I've never driven a vehicle, at least I've driven four-wheelers over stuff like this, but not trucks. This is a pretty treacherous trail for a truck.
The nice thing about this electric truck is that there is no differential holding down to reduce my ground clearance. Right now we are off-roading through like this cavern thing, trying to keep the sides of the truck away from the rock walls. Oh, this is cozy.
That is crazy. You don't hear the engine revving out.
Wow, that was crazy.
Now we're leading your way.
Oh, this is nuts.
It's pretty impressive stuff. And one thing that they continually mention over and over again, driving up these huge trails in the mountains, is that it's so quiet. Like normally if you drive a big vehicle up something with this steep of an incline, it's going to be working hard, so you hear the engine, you don't hear much nature. This, you only hear the vehicle's, the truck's tires going over the rocks, going over the ground. So it's a whole different experience. They mention that multiple times going up this mountain. So in terms of the product, from what I view and what I see, and even the reaction and kind of the review of these different tech reviewers, they're saying that out of the trucks that they've driven, the Rivian is one of their favorite. Like they really like the vehicle. They like the technology in it. They like how it handles. They like the battery life. They like all the utility. They like the looks of it. It's really good. The product is really good. But that's kind of where what I like about Rivian ends, is the product. If you go into the valuation and what they're asking for this company, it is very steep. $60 billion at a minimum, I think is what it's going to be. In my opinion, I think the IPO will be moved up to more like 80, 85 billion with the hype that's going into these stocks. And the Wall Street Journal is right. They say a high valuation for a startup truck maker that implies it will make a meaningful market share. It'll take meaningful market share from Ford or General Motors. So it needs to take market share from Ford and General Motors in the truck market, which is going to be difficult in and of itself. You might, Ford is not in like the best shape ever, but they are still very popular amongst truck owners. And they came out with another EV truck, the Lightning, I believe is what it's called. And that one I think is also going to appeal to truck owners. So they have competition and they're already priced as though they're going to be much bigger than Ford or General Motors. They're going to be bigger than either of those companies. Another thing to keep in mind is the timing of this IPO next week is like the best possible time to IPO an EV company. Look what just recently happened with Tesla stock. It just went through the moon. It's up like 60% in a couple months, right? It's gone up like crazy. Other companies like GM and Ford have spiked in price as well. There's all of a sudden, just in the past couple months, this hysteria. And this, in my opinion, a lot of it's kind of just like panic buying and FOMO to get into these EV stocks. They say for Rivian, the timing could hardly be better. Amid a fresh wave of enthusiasm for EV stocks, the market value of Lucid, Rivian's closest listed pair, rose 53% last week to roughly $60 billion. It went up 53% in 1 week. And that's on an undiluted basis. Both companies have well-reviewed launch products. Like I just mentioned, the products themselves are pretty good, but are very early in the risky production ramp-up phase. We have the example of Tesla. And if you're a subscriber of my other channel, I went over just in my previous episode, Survivorship Bias, the companies that made it and how that gets all the focus and the media attention, and all the companies that really didn't do so well, all the ones that didn't survive, well, they don't get as much attention. So it gives people this false perception that it's easier to make it than it really is. Tesla is the survivor. They're the ones that made it big, right? But there's a lot of competitors and a lot of other companies that haven't done as well as Tesla. So to assume that every company will find a level of success anywhere close to Tesla or anywhere close to any other successful car company in general, I think is more risky than people think. This is a more risky endeavor than people think. The one really good thing about Rivian, and the one thing that people take solace in, is the backers. It's not only backed by Ford, which I don't think is a big deal in and of itself, but it's backed by Amazon. And being backed by Amazon is like having the magic touch. You have Amazon behind you. How could the company possibly fail? I want to go into the Amazon backing and just take a look at this because I think this is really important. See if you can follow along here with me. Amazon made an investment. Well, let me just back up. We know that Amazon owns 20% of Rivian right now. And that's what attracts you to Rivian. Oh, Amazon owns 20%? Well, maybe it's okay to buy a little bit of it, right? If Amazon's big on it, then maybe I should be too. Well, let's take a look at the details of when Amazon purchased Rivian. Amazon made the investment through its Climate Pledge Fund. So that's the first thing, is Amazon has other motivations than just getting an ROI. They want to clean up their image. They want to have a better company that gets better publicity. And part of that means their climate change agenda. They want to become more eco-friendly. So they'll invest money into these eco-friendly projects, even if the ROI isn't fantastic. That's not exactly the goal with Amazon. So the point here is that Amazon has dual motives. It's not just to get an ROI. It's not just to invest in a random EV company that they think is a good investment. They want to have their vehicles, and they've already ordered some of the vans for themselves, and they have their climate pledge. They want to become carbon neutral, and this is a way to be able to help accomplish that goal. So Amazon has like a dual motive here, not all about getting an ROI, but this is the more important part. Look at when Amazon actually bought into this company and at what valuation. They bought in 2019, and like you might guess, the valuation was much lower. They bought in with 2 rounds, $700 million and $1.3 billion, and that's $2 billion total, and they own 20% of the company. That means that they bought 20% of the company for $2 billion. It's IPOing maybe at $80 billion, and Amazon's going to own 20% of that. That means that they've already made up to 8 times the return on their investment. Up to 8 times. Their ROI is already great on this. The easy money has been made. Amazon already has great returns, so they're probably not worried about it compounding any further. I just don't see Amazon really being a big reason to invest in it at this point. They say that Amazon said last October that it will have 10,000 custom electric delivery vehicles on the road as early as 2022. That's not a lot of vehicles. 10,000 in 2022, and then 100,000, the vans that Amazon ordered in 2030. So this is 9 years out. So when I look at this from the Amazon perspective, maybe since Amazon's an investor, this is a good investment. And I'm not really sold on that point of view either, because Amazon invested at 1/8 the value it is today, and Amazon has other motives, and I don't see them making this a huge project. Now, if Jeff Bezos or Amazon and Jassy, the new CEO, were like, we're really going to grow Rivian, we're going to use our huge infrastructure and network to build out charging stations, and we're going to build 5 new facilities and really ramp up production, then I'd be like, wow, they're really going all in on this. It probably deserves this massive valuation. But as I see it right now, I don't think that that's really their goal. I just see them investing in a company at a really cheap valuation with easy money gains when it goes to IPO, which it is next week. And I see them kind of getting a better deal on the vans that they already need to buy. I think that's their major motivation. So even from the Amazon being a backer, I'm not really super sold on that perspective as well. So for me, as of what I know right now, I'm going to continue to learn about it. But as of right now, you may have already guessed, but I'm going to be passing on this IPO. I think that the valuation of it does not reflect the uncertainty and risk in this stock. It is in the early stages of production. It's going up against very well capitalized, familiar companies like Tesla. And it lacks some of the critical things that Tesla has, like already their charging station, their infrastructure, their gigafactories, and their work already with full self-driving to be able to eventually have the dream and vision of a robo-taxi, right? It doesn't really have any of those attractive points that at least somewhere down the road justify the valuation. With Rivian, you're buying good vehicles, good trucks at a valuation more than Ford or GM. It's a little bit intense, and it's just not worth it. When I look at valuation, another way to view this, by the way, if you want to do comparative valuation, is just compare the valuation of Rivian at IPO against some other companies. Let's compare it, for example, to Spotify. If I go into Spotify, this is a company trading at a $54 billion valuation. So it's going to be less valued than Rivian at IPO. Now, keep in mind that while Spotify has that smaller market cap, 57 billion right now, it's gone up a little bit. It used to be 40 billion with how small this company was. And Rivian at IPO is going to have a bigger market cap. Spotify's raking in over 2.5 billion a quarter. This is a company that has pretty significant revenues for its market cap. It's a price to sales of 6, and this is a technology company. It is growing like crazy too. It's growing at 27% year over year consistently outside of the pandemic. It has 181 million premium subscribers paying it monthly income. And then on top of that, it has a total of 380 million monthly active users. By the end of next quarter, Spotify will have 400 million users. 400 million monthly active users. This is a massive platform, and it's selling for $57 billion. And the Rivian IPO of a company that so far really hasn't sold a single vehicle is going to be $80 billion. This is the market that we're in right now. One thing I want to do is listen to a small clip of Daniel Ek on the last quarterly results of Spotify. This is the earnings call, and this is the CEO of Spotify.
Looking long term on our product and our platform, which is where I tend to focus, my confidence is in the opportunity still out there is unwavering. This is especially true when I think about how well we are positioned despite still being very much in the early days of this audio journey. A good reminder, linear radio still has a 46% share of audio listening in the US alone. This despite consumption shifting steadily away from it. And this year, more than 60% of all audio ad spending will go to traditional radio. I think this clearly shows that we have plenty of room to grow both in listening time and in our effective monetization. And the US is one of the most advanced markets, so internationally, there's even more growth ahead of us. We started our journey 3 years ago in podcasting with a catalog of about 185,000 podcasts. And we were really nowhere compared to the largest players in the industry. Today, we have 3.2 million podcasts on the platform, a growth rate of over 1,500%. But despite the fact that we're still a relatively new entrant, previous data indicated we have become the top platform for podcast consumption in 60-plus countries. And now, according to Edison Research and our own internal sources, we recently became the #1 podcast platform U.S. listeners use the most. Given the U.S. represents the largest podcast market globally, I think this is quite significant.
So when I look at the companies that I already own, companies like Spotify, and I compare the value, what you're paying for the business, whenever you're buying into a stock, you should look at what the total price of the company is. What is the market cap? How much are you paying as if you bought the entire company? Would you buy Rivian for $80 billion right now? If you really had $100 billion sitting around or whatever, if you had enough money to buy the entire company, is Rivian the thing that you would want to buy, right? That's how you should look at it. And when I look at the decision between Rivian or just reinvesting back into other companies, I'd rather just double my position in Spotify. I'd literally like to just double my position in Spotify and own twice as much of it than buy more Rivian. I think that Spotify is a better deal. I think it has just as good of a market opportunity. It's the leader in podcasts right now. It's growing in monthly active users like crazy. It has optionality. It has different things that it can do. And it's priced at a price less than these new companies coming out. So that's the way that I view this. I compare different investment opportunities to the companies that I already own. And in this case, I'd rather put more money into companies like Spotify than speculate on this new EV company. And we'll see what happens. Maybe it will go to the moon. I don't know, but I feel better about putting my money this direction. So that's the way that I look at this. I hope you guys enjoyed this little breakdown, and I'll see you in the next one.